Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive here on Beyond the Known. And, we always like to get a little weird around here. So today we're going to talk about the Mandela Effect.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I love Mandela Effect. It really kind of messes with you. It's just so interesting, this idea that large groups of people can share the same false memory.
Right. And not like, oh, I forgot where I put my keys.
Right.
It's like very specific things, pop culture things.
Yeah.
Brand logos,
Yeah.
historical details. So we've got a bunch of examples that we're going to go through today that I think are going to be really, really fun. And what we really want to get into is sort of what these shared inaccuracies reveal about our memories, but also what it says about, like, reality and things like that.
Yeah.
So we're not going to get too speculative. We're just going to kind of stick to the facts today.
Well, maybe a little speculative.
A little bit.
A tiny bit.
A tiny bit. So, before we jump into some juicy examples,
Yeah.
Can you just kind of briefly give us a rundown of, like, what the Mandela Effect actually is?
Sure. So the term Mandela Effect comes from the experience of Fiona Brome, who had a very distinct memory of Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s.
Right.
But he didn't, of course. He was released, became president of South Africa, and then actually died in 2013. But the interesting thing is, like you were saying, lots of other people share this false memory. So basically, that's what the Mandela Effect is just this shared false memory that lots of people have, even though it never happened.
And it's not like they're trying to be deceptive or anything like that. They actually fully believe this memory.
Yeah, they genuinely believe that their memory is true. And the University of Chicago actually defines the Mandela Effect as like an internet phenomenon, which is interesting. But it basically means that these false memories are shared and consistent across large groups of people, especially in regards to things like popular culture icons.
Right.
So it's something that can be observed, but we still don't have a really clear explanation as to why it happens.
Right. So there's no clear scientific reason why so many people would have the exact same false memory.
Exactly.
Which I think is what makes it so fascinating.
It's really intriguing.
And it leads to all sorts of different theories.
Oh, yeah.
But before we get into the why, I want to dive into some of the examples.
Yes, let's get to the good stuff.
Because I think they're just so interesting and they really highlight just how weird this phenomenon can be.
For sure.
So let's start with film and television.
Okay.
Because there are a lot of really notable examples within pop culture. So arguably one of the most famous ones is from Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back.
Ooh, okay.
So think about that scene where Darth Vader reveals to Luke who his father is. What's the line that everyone remembers?
Luke, I am your father.
Right. It's so iconic. It's like quoted all the time.
All the time, yeah.
But the actual line is,
no, I am your father.
No, I am your father.
Yeah.
So it's really just a small difference.
Right.
But for some reason, so many people remember it as, Luke, I am your father.
Yeah, it's really strange. And it's interesting, too, because the misremembered line, the Luke, I am your father, is actually more concise.
Right.
So it's almost like our brains have kind of streamlined it.
Yeah, it's more dramatic.
Right. It's punchier.
Yeah.
And it's even become kind of a running joke, which you'd think would reinforce the actual line.
Yeah.
But somehow it seems to actually make people hold on to the false memory even more.
Right, which is so interesting. And I think this happens a lot with Mandela Effect examples where the incorrect version actually becomes more popular or more widely known than the original.
Yeah, it's almost like the false memory takes on a life of its own.
Yeah, it's very strange. All right, so another one that I love and I think a lot of people have very strong memories of is from Snow White.
Ooh, okay.
So we all know the scene, right? The evil queen is talking to the mirror.
Right.
And she says,
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?
Right.
I can hear her voice.
Yeah.
Like that creepy, raspy voice.
It's so iconic. But the actual line is,
magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?
Right. So again, it's subtle.
Yeah.
But it's different. And it's interesting because I think there was even a movie called Mirror, Mirror.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
That came out a few years ago.
There was. That's so funny.
Which just goes to show how ingrained this incorrect version is in our culture.
It's really become part of our collective consciousness.
Yeah. All right, so this next one is a little bit different.
Okay.
And I think this might be one of the most interesting Mandela effects.
All right, I'm intrigued.
Have you heard of the Sinbad Genie movie?
Oh, yeah, Shazam, right.
Yeah, Shazam.
That's a classic.
So many people remember this movie existing,
I mean, I can almost picture it. Like, I feel like I've seen clips of it,
Right.
but I can't really remember the plot.
I know. It's so weird.
It's just this vague memory.
Right. And it's supposed to be a genie movie starring Sinbad.
Yeah.
Supposedly came out in the 90s.
Right.
But here's the thing. There is no evidence that this movie ever existed.
Wait, really?
Yeah. There was a movie called Kazam.
Oh, yeah, Kazam.
Starring Shaquille O'Neal.
Oh, with Shaq. Yes, I remember that one.
As a genie.
Right.
In 1996.
Okay.
And it's very possible that people are conflating those two movies.
That makes sense. Like, our brains just kind of merged the genie, the 90s, the whole vibe.
Right. Plus, Sinbad has said that he did a genie skit on Saturday Night Live or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that could also be part of it. So it's kind of a mix of different things, but it seems like the Shazam movie itself, starring Sinbad, never actually existed.
Wow, that is really strange. Like, it feels so real to so many people.
I know. This is one where I actually have like a vague memory myself.
Yeah, me too.
It's really weird. Okay, another one that I find just so bizarre, and this is one that really kind of made me question everything when I first heard it.
Okay, hit me with it.
C-3PO.
From Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What color is he?
Gold.
Right, everyone remembers him as being gold.
Huh?
But if you go back and watch the original trilogy,
Yeah.
he actually has a silver leg from the knee down.
Which leg?
I think it's his right leg.
Really? I've never noticed that.
And even some of the older Star Wars toys, they made him all gold.
You're kidding. So even the merchandise got it wrong.
Yeah, which I think just adds to the confusion.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, if even the toys are reinforcing the false memory, no wonder it's so widespread.
It's so bizarre. All right, this next one is a little bit quicker.
Okay.
But it's from the show Sex and the City.
Okay.
And some people remember the title being Sex and the City.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see how people would remember that.
Right. It kind of makes more sense grammatically.
Yeah, it does flow a bit better.
Yeah. But it's always been Sex and the City.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there you go. Our brains trying to make things make sense, I guess.
Right. Okay, let's get into brands and logos.
Okay.
Because I feel like this is where the Mandela Effect really gets juicy.
For sure.
All right, let's start with a childhood favorite.
Ooh, okay.
The Berenstain Bears.
The Berenstain Bears, yep.
Yeah. How do you spell that?
Berenstein. Berenstain.
But a lot of people remember it as...
Berenstein. Berenstain.
Right. And apparently there are some really rare old pieces of merchandise that actually spell it Berenstain.
Wait, really? So there's actual physical evidence of the misspelling?
Yeah, which is really weird. But even then, it's not consistent. Like, sometimes on the same piece of merchandise, it'll be spelled both ways.
So it's like even the misspellings are messed up.
Right. It's so strange. What about Fruit of the Loom?
Oh, yeah.
So think about the logo. What do you picture?
I see, like a cornucopia.
Yeah.
Like the horn of plenty overflowing with fruit.
Right. It's a very classic image.
Yeah.
Very abundant.
Right, exactly.
But the logo has never had a cornucopia.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah. And one theory is that it's because of those old commercials where you'd see people coming out of a cornucopia.
Oh, right. Like they'd be hiding in it or something. And
Yeah.
then they'd pop out.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about those.
But it's interesting because a study was done where they showed people the correct logo and then asked them to draw it from memory. And a lot of people still drew the cornucopia even though they had just seen the logo without it.
Wow, that's so weird.
So it's like our brains are really attached to that image.
Ah.
All right. Another classic one, the Monopoly Man.
Okay, the Monopoly Man. What about him?
What do you picture when you think of him?
Okay, so top hat, mustache, monocle.
Right. But he's never worn a monocle.
What? No way. He always has a monocle.
He doesn't. It's possible that people are confusing him with Mr. Peanut.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Peanut definitely has a monocle.
Or maybe it's from one of those McDonald's Monopoly games.
Oh, yeah. Those games have been around forever. Maybe they use a monocle on their version.
Yeah. But the official Monopoly Man has never had one.
Huh. My whole life is a lie.
I know. Okay, here's a quick one. The Volkswagen logo.
Okay, the VW logo.
So you've got the V and the W.
Mm-hmm.
Are they connected or is there a gap?
They're connected, right. It's just like a solid VW.
There's actually a small gap between the letters.
Really? I've literally never noticed that.
Yeah, it's very subtle, but it's there.
Wow. Okay. I'm starting to feel like I can't trust my eyes anymore.
I know. It's really weird. Okay, let's do a few rapid-fire brand names.
Okay, let's do it.
Jif peanut butter. Some people remember it as.
Jiffy.
Right. Oscar Mayer.
Meyer.
Fruit Loops.
Fruit Loops.
Captain Crunch.
Captain Crunch.
A breeze.
Febreze.
Depends.
Depend.
Cheez-Its.
Cheez-Its.
JCPenney.
JCPenney.
Right.
It's like our brains are trying to simplify things.
Yeah.
Or make them more phonetically consistent.
Right. Exactly.
Very strange.
Okay. Let's move on to characters and specific details.
Okay.
This is another really fun one.
All right.
Curious George.
Curious George, yeah.
What do you picture?
I see that cute little monkey with his yellow hat swinging from his tail.
But he doesn't have a tail.
What? No way.
Never has.
Curious George has no tail.
No tail.
That's just wrong.
I know. It's so weird. And similarly, Pikachu.
The Pokemon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of people remember him having a black tip on his tail.
I do. I always thought his tail had a black tip, like a lightning bolt or something.
But his tail's always been all yellow.
Really? I'm telling you, I can picture it so clearly. The black tip, the yellow.
Nope. All yellow.
My childhood is crumbling around me.
Okay, here's a spelling one. Looney Tunes.
Looney Tunes? Easy. T-O-O-N-S.
T-U-N-E-S.
What? No, it's T-O-N-S?
Nope. T-U-N-E-S.
Like musical tunes.
Like musical tunes.
That makes no sense.
I know. It's always been that way.
That is so bizarre.
Okay, and a couple of just like small detail ones.
Okay.
Mickey Mouse. Some people remember him not having a tail.
Really? I mean, I guess he does wear pants.
Yeah, but he's always had a tail.
I've always pictured him with a tail.
Okay. And then Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
Uh-huh.
Some people remember him having a very prominent Adam's apple.
I can kind of see that. Like, he's always so lanky and awkward.
Yeah, but other people don't remember it at all. So
Yeah.
that's one where it seems to be a little bit more divided.
Interesting. It's like even our false memories can be inconsistent.
Right. Okay, let's talk about some famous quotes and phrases.
Okay, let's hear it.
So this is another area where the Mandela Effect pops up quite a bit. One of the most famous ones is, "Beam me up, Scotty."
Oh, yeah, from Star Trek. Classic.
But Captain Kirk never actually said that exact phrase.
No way. He must have said it at some point.
He said similar things like "beam me up" or "beam us up, Scotty," but he never said "beam me up, Scotty" altogether.
Wow. I can't believe that. It's such an iconic line.
I know, right? It's so strange how these misquotes become so ingrained in our culture.
Totally. What about elementary, my dear Watson?
Ooh, good one.
Did Sherlock Holmes actually say that?
He never said it in the books.
What?
It's from the movies.
Oh, wow. So the movies have really shaped our perception of Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah. And one more. "What if I told you?"
Oh, the Morpheus quote from The Matrix.
Yeah. So the actual line is, "What if I told you that everything you knew was a lie?"
That's what I thought it was.
It's actually not in the movie.
Really? I've seen that quote everywhere.
I know, it's a very popular meme.
Yeah.
But it's not actually from the movie.
Wow. It's amazing how these things can take on a life of their own online.
Yeah. Okay, we've got a few other random ones before we get into some potential explanations.
All right, bring them on.
So some people remember New Zealand being northeast of Australia
Really?
instead of southeast.
Huh. I always thought it was southeast, but I guess I could see how people would get that mixed up.
There are also some conflicting memories about the orientation of the peace symbol
Oh, interesting.
and the image of King Henry VIII holding a turkey leg.
The one where he's just gnawing on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That painting doesn't exist.
Really? I swear I've seen that painting somewhere.
Apparently not. And the lyrics to "This is the song that never ends,"
It never ends. It goes on and on, my friend.
it's actually "This is the song that doesn't end."
Huh. I always thought it was never.
And another one that a lot of people get wrong is the boiling frog experiment.
Oh, yeah. The idea that if you slowly heat up a pot of water, the frog won't jump out and it'll boil to death.
Yeah.
That's a myth, right?
Yeah, it's not true.
Frogs are smarter than that.
So those are just a few more random examples. But as you can see, this phenomenon can affect all sorts of different things.
It's like it touches every corner of our collective memory.
Yeah.
Like we've got pop culture, we've got brands, we've got history, even science. It's really fascinating.
It is. It is. So we've talked about a lot of examples now.
Yeah. Let's get into why this happens.
Okay. Let's dive into the explanations.
So what are some of the leading theories about what causes the Mandela effect?
Well, most scientists believe that it all comes down to the way our memories work
Okay.
and the fact that they're not always that reliable.
Our memories aren't perfect.
No, not at all. They're actually very fluid and constantly changing.
That's kind of scary.
It is a little bit, but it's also just how our brains work.
So, like, if I remember something a certain way, that doesn't necessarily mean it happened that way.
Exactly. It's possible that your memory has been influenced by other factors, like things you've seen or heard since the event, or even just the way you've thought about it over time.
So it's like our memories are constantly being rewritten.
In a way, yes. Every time you recall a memory, it's actually being reconstructed by your brain.
Okay.
And sometimes, during that reconstruction process, little details can get changed or added.
That's wild.
It is. And it's one of the reasons why eyewitness testimony can be so unreliable. Right, because if two people witness the same event, they might remember it differently.
Exactly. Our memories are just not as objective as we'd like to think they are. So, one theory about the Mandela Effect is that it's a form of confabulation.
Confabulation.
Yeah, it's a fancy word for basically making up memories.
So people are just lying.
No, not necessarily. It's usually unconscious.
Yeah.
Like your brain might be trying to fill in gaps in your memory, and it just kind of makes something up that seems plausible.
So it's like, I don't remember what color shirt I was wearing yesterday, so my brain just decides it was blue.
Exactly. And the more you think about that memory, the more convinced you become that it was blue, even though you have no actual evidence to support it.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then there's the idea of false memories.
Okay.
Which are basically memories that never happened, but you believe they did.
So like completely made up memories.
Yeah. And they can be really vivid and detailed.
Wow. How does that happen?
Well, there are a few different ways. Sometimes it's because of something called suggestibility.
Suggestibility?
Yeah, it's basically when you're influenced by something someone else says or does.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, if someone tells you a story about something that happened to you, even if it didn't actually happen, you might start to believe it and even form a false memory of it.
So it's like if someone tells me a story about going to the zoo with me when I was a kid, even if we never went to the zoo, I might start to believe that we did.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And the more details they give you, the more real it will seem.
Wow. That's kind of scary.
It is a little bit. And it's one of the reasons why it's so important to be careful about the information we consume, especially online.
Right, because you never know what's true and what's not.
Exactly. And then there's priming.
Priming.
Yeah. It's a psychological phenomenon where exposure to one stimulus can influence your response to a subsequent stimulus.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. So imagine I show you a list of words related to sleep, like bed, pillow, night, and then I ask you to complete a word fragment like S. Right. Because you were primed with words related to sleep, you're more likely to complete the fragment with sleep.
Okay. That makes sense.
So priming can also influence your memories. Like if you're exposed to a certain piece of information, you might be more likely to remember something related to it, even if it's not actually true.
So, like, if I see a news report about a car accident, I might be more likely to remember a time when I was in a car accident, even if I've never been in one.
Exactly. It's like your brain is making connections between things that might not actually be connected.
That's fascinating.
It is. And then there's the fact that our brains just have limitations when it comes to memory storage.
Okay.
So we can't possibly remember everything that's ever happened to us.
Right.
So our brains have to be selective about what they store.
Makes sense.
And sometimes, in order to save space, they might just kind of fill in the gaps with information that seems logical, even if it's not accurate.
So it's like our brains are trying to be efficient.
In a way, yes. They're trying to make sense of the world and create a coherent narrative, even if that narrative isn't always completely accurate.
Right. And then, of course, we have to talk about the role of the internet.
Oh, yeah, the internet's a big one.
It's basically a giant echo chamber for misinformation.
Yeah. It can be really hard to tell what's true and what's not online.
Right. And with the Mandela Effect, it seems like the internet has played a huge role in spreading and reinforcing these false memories.
Absolutely. Like you'll see memes and forum posts and videos all talking about the same Mandela effects.
Yeah.
And it just kind of creates this sense that everyone remembers it that way.
Yeah, it's like social proof.
Exactly. And the more people you see talking about it, the more likely you are to believe it yourself.
So the internet is kind of a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's an amazing tool for connecting people and sharing information, but it can also be used to spread misinformation very effectively.
All right, there's one more theory that I want to talk about, and it's a little bit more out there.
Okay, I'm ready.
So have you heard of schema theory?
I've heard of it, but I don't really know what it is.
Okay, so basically it says that our brains organize information into schemas, which are basically like mental frameworks for understanding the world.
Okay.
So, for example, you might have a schema for what a dog is.
Right. 4 legs, furry, barks, wags its tail.
Exactly. And that schema helps you to understand and categorize new information about dogs.
Okay.
So schema theory suggests that when we're trying to remember something, our brains might activate the relevant schema and then fill in any gaps in our memory with information that fits into that schema.
Okay, I'm starting to see where you're going with this.
So in the case of the Mandela effect, it's possible that our brains are activating a schema for a certain event or piece of information and then filling in the gaps with details that fit into that schema, even if those details are not actually accurate.
That's really interesting. So it's like our brains are trying to create a coherent story, even if that means sacrificing some accuracy. Okay, so we've got confabulation, false memories, suggestibility, priming, memory storage limitations, the internet, and schema theory.
Yeah.
Are there any other explanations out there?
There are a lot of theories, but most of them are pretty speculative.
Okay, like what?
Well, there's the multiverse theory, which suggests that there are multiple universes, and that maybe we're just remembering things from a different universe.
Okay, that's pretty wild.
Yeah. And then there's the simulation theory, which says that we're all living in a computer simulation and that the Mandela effect is just a glitch in the matrix.
Whoa, that's some next level stuff.
I know. And then there are even some people who believe that CERN is causing the Mandela effect.
CERN, the particle accelerator.
Yeah, they think that maybe CERN is creating black holes or something that's messing with our reality.
Okay, that's getting a little too sci-fi for me.
I know. But it's interesting to think about all the different possibilities.
It definitely is. But I think it's important to remember that there's no real evidence to support any of these more out there theories. And the most likely explanation is that the Mandela effect is just a result of the way our brains work.
Yeah. It's a reminder that our memories are not always perfect.
And that we should always be critical of the information we consume, especially online.
Well, I think that's a great place to leave it.
Yeah.
The Mandela effect is a really fascinating phenomenon that really makes you think about the nature of memory and reality.
Absolutely. And it's a great reminder that we should never take our memories for granted.
So thank you, everyone, for joining us on this deep dive into the Mandela effect.
So it's been fun.
Don't forget to follow and subscribe to Beyond the Known for more deep dives into the unusual and unexplained.
So until next time.
See you next time.